Namaste, welcome everyone. Happy to continue with the second part of our talk in Vedanta, and we're having again Adi today. Welcome.
Well, namaste. Namaste to We Love Yoga community and namaste to you, Alina.
We received very positive feedback and constructive comments regarding the first part. So I'm really happy to continue today to dig in a bit more regarding the topic. I have a question about the Sanskrit language. How much is it required in order to study Vedanta?
That's an important question. Whoever asked it is a smart question and also pertaining to the study that Vedanta is or any Shastra is, it becomes important. Why we'll see now. Sanskrit, again, it's a language. Now, language is an English word, but in Sanskrit or in other native language, it's called Bhasha. Now, Bhasha, the definition of Bhasha in Sanskrit is Bhashate Anaya iti Bhasha. Bhasha, the word Bhash, the root Bhash comes from the word Bhasha comes from the root Bhash, which means to express. That means it's talking about speech. Now, that by which you express is what the definition is saying. Now, that by which you express becomes the language. That means next question should be, what are you expressing? And what do we express? We express our thoughts. That means your thinking language becomes that. Now we'll come to this point again, why I'm saying thinking language. Now, Sanskrit, another point for Sanskrit is most of our Shastras are written in this language. 99.99% if I have to say. So, entire Indian philosophy or Bharatiya Darshana, and even beyond that, any particular Shastra, Tantra Shastra, Vedic Shastra, Yoga Shastra, any Shastra, this Ayurveda as a Shastra, this is the language it was originally written. And before the writing came into existence, it was spoken in this language as well. It was studied in this language as well. It was taught in this language as well. Another point. Now, there's a famous shloka about Sanskrit. Actually, it is about Bharat, the country or the land. It says, Bharatasya pratishthe dve. Sanskritam Samskritis tatha. Now, what this shloka is saying, very beautiful shloka. It explains the entire landscape of this country and the entire ethos, the entire civilization on which this has been built. This land has been built. It says there are two things which is of highest order or on which this entire system is based is Sanskrit as the language, Sanskritam, and then Samskriti. Samskriti means the culture. And what is that language that upholds this culture or that talks about this culture is this language, Sanskrit. That's why Sanskrit is also known as the mother of most Indian languages and many European languages also, combining with Latin and Greek. Now, but then in that, Sanskrit comes to be a language in which most of the text is written for at least this part of the world. Now, to study about something that is coming out of this part of the world, a person who has an inquisitive interest or who wants to go deeper into this subject will obviously have to have a well-informed or well-educated information about this language. Otherwise, the subject will not make much sense, or the depth of the subject will not be touched upon. So this is one thing, or few of the things that we have already discussed. So the depth is part of the knowledge base of this country. Hence, the language becomes very important. But there are schools, there are gurukuls right now at least, and there are ashrams who are teaching Vedanta, who are teaching other texts also without much help of Sanskrit. What does that mean? Meaning they are not teaching Sanskrit in the standard traditional way, where you start from the Laghu Vyakran. There is a way in the tradition they start in this way. Now, what they are doing is they are giving you the basic understanding of the language. Apart from that, most of the studies will be conducted in English. Maybe it's Vedanta, maybe it is yoga, maybe it is some other school, Sankhya, Nyaya, Tantra, Nadi yoga. There are many streams of fields of disciplines of yoga and other schools of philosophy also, which would need this language in the standard form as the text would go. Let's say somebody picks up Yoga Darshana and talks about Patanjali Yoga Sutra. So the sutra obviously is in Sanskrit, but the entire book, which is in the modern times, most of the commentaries are written in English. So the entire book, 95% of the book will be written in English language. Now, the next thing that becomes important is how much authentic or how well translated this commentary is. Because initially, all the commentaries were written. Even the commentaries of the mantra or the shloka or the verse was in English, was in Sanskrit itself. Now that they are translating it into English, we have to understand that that book that we are choosing has to be the closest possible translation. If we are picking up a source or a book or studying through a teacher who is teaching us, translating the Sanskrit language into English or any other language in a way that is not losing the essence of it, then you are getting obviously the right essence of what that text or what that Shastra is trying to tell you. If that is not happening, obviously there will be, as they say in English, lost in translation. It is a very famous saying. Anything that you translate, there is some loss, which will happen here as well, and which has been happening. There is no denying that. But to say that I cannot study, I cannot start Vedanta without Sanskrit, I have zero knowledge, that would be wrong. I have seen many people, even the ashram or the Gurukula that I have studied, there also, there were people who had zero knowledge. There were people who feared the language, and they were not from outside of India, they were from India. So this also we have to understand. And those people, after a few years and during the course itself, learned the language while studying Vedanta. So the learning went simultaneously. So we cannot say that a person needs to know Sanskrit language in order to start studying Vedanta. But to go into the depths of this knowledge, to go into the deeper truths or the essence of the entire Vedanta, so that your self-study, your own reflection, your own meditation is proper, it can only happen if you know the language or you are studying through a source who has well translated it. Or it could be a teacher, it could be a book, it could be anything. So this is what we have to understand. And by this, I would say that as a language, for the Shastra, for the text, it is important. For all the text, it is important, especially for Vedanta also. But you can still study Vedanta philosophy. You can still study other philosophies also, even if you are a beginner in Sanskrit or you don't even know the script, which is Devanagari.
Thank you very much for the clarification. And what about in terms of qualifications? if the language is not required, but are there any specific qualifications that are needed in order to study Vedanta?
This again is a very important question, and a question which is well connected to what we have just now discussed. Now, language again can also be called one of the criteria, right? Because when we take admission in a university, let's say, okay, let's talk about this country. Here, there are many languages. When we take admission in a school somewhere, there can be mediums of study. Medium study means the language in which that school is teaching. So there will be an English medium school. There will be a Hindi medium school. There will be a Telugu medium school. There will be a... Now, the medium. What is happening there is a particular language which is used to study or to conduct education. Now, Sanskrit again becomes important there itself if we have to study Indian philosophy, but keeping that language aside because we have already addressed that question. Coming to this question, are there any Shastra prescribed? What does the tradition says? What does the people, the rishis, the lineage, the guru lineage that is coming from thousands of years say about people who want to study Vedanta? How do they see somebody and understand that, oh, this person has in him or her to walk this path, to take this path and walk forward it is spiritual endeavor or in its spiritual journey. This we have to understand here now. Now, as far as this qualification is concerned, Shastra says there are fourfold qualification. Now, this fourfold qualification, or so to say, a spiritual qualification for that spiritual aspirant. Now, that aspirant needs to be qualified, as they say. And that word that we use for it, they say it adhikari. Now, what is adhikari? Adhikari is someone, so to say, in a simple way, a one who is deserving. Now, but what do we mean by deserving? Now, I'll give you a simple example. When I had to take admission in an engineering college, I had to first take physics, chemistry, maths in my school, and then give an entrance exam, and then score a certain marks in that entrance exam to get into a certain university or a college. So this is a process, certain qualification that I had to cross to get selected into a certain university, into a certain college, into a certain field of stream or stream of study, an engineering stream in this example, because it's from my own life experience. That becomes a prerequisite, as this question is saying, and qualification. And that qualification for that aspirant, for that adhikari is important. In this spiritual journey, Shastra says there are fourfold qualification to study Vedanta. Now, what are those fourfold qualifications? Means fourfold means there are four. Generally, they are seen as one because they say they come one after the another. They come simultaneously. If you see growing, one is growing, the next after this will also grow. This is a general understanding in the tradition, and this is a live experience of thousands of people, or maybe more. Fourfold qualification, the first one is called Viveka. Viveka generally literally translated as discrimination, not in the negative light, but how we'll see how. Then Vairagya, which is detachment, dispassion. Other words are also available in English dictionary, which can come close to the translation of Vairagya. Then come Shama Adi Shatka Sampatti. Now, Shama Adi. Adi is a word which is commonly used in Sanskrit text, means etc. Or obviously, the most common meaning of this word is beginning, which is the meaning of my name also. But here in the text, they are saying etc. Etc. of what? Of Shama, Sham Adi. So the Sandhi is happening there, Sham Adi. There are six qualities, internal qualities, which is the third factor. Shamadi, Shatka. Shat means six, and Sampatti means obviously the wealth. Closest translation I'm giving you here, wealth is called Sampatti. They are talking of that inner wealth, that six inner wealth that they will possess. We'll see what are those. And then the last is Mumukshutva. Mumukshutva means burning desire for liberation. Now, these are the fourfold qualifications. We'll see just a little bit or uh, a simple understanding of these four because these are very vast topics and we can't discuss this entirely here. But to give you a brief understanding of this or to give our audience a brief understanding of what do we mean by Viveka, what do we mean by Vairagya, what do we mean by Shama, Adi, Shatka, Sampatti, what do we mean by Mumukshutva? Viveka, as I was saying, is discrimination. Another word that they use is discernment. Okay, let's say I'm giving you a very raw example here right now. This is not what Viveka is used for, but generally how we use our intellect because it is a thing of the intellect. The intellect discriminates between things. Now I go for shopping. I need a cloth in yellow. Let's say I want to buy a t-shirt which is yellow in color. I have that color in mind. I know the type of t-shirt I also need. I got the type of t-shirt, but I have not got the color. I'm getting a blue one. I will look further. So that the discrimination my intellect is making is that I need to purchase a yellow t-shirt. A yellow t-shirt is different from a blue t-shirt. Why? Because the color is different. The same is what the same logic applies here. Obviously, in Vedanta, we are not choosing t-shirts. What we are trying to choose here is the difference between the permanent and the impermanent. The discernment between the permanent and the impermanent is the Viveka. That is the kind of discernment, that is the kind of discrimination, that is the kind of differentiation we have to create within the intellect to understand what is permanent and what is not permanent. This is what Vedanta says. Then, second is Vairagya, as the word also is self explanatory in English, detachment or dispassion. Now, detachment or dispassion towards what? Again, as I was saying, they are connected. Viveka becomes the discernment between the permanent and impermanent. Vairagya, when you understand in the Viveka, when you understand the differentiation between the permanent and the impermanent, you develop detachment or dispassion towards the impermanent, towards the things which you know is not permanent. They are here now, they will not be tomorrow. Even people of understanding, people of reflection, they would even go to an extent and say that there is no tomorrow, which is right. There is no tomorrow. Now, that is the kind of Vairagya Vedanta is trying to propagate or trying to explain to us. That once you develop Viveka, the difference between what is the truth and what is the non-truth, what is permanent and what is impermanent, then you develop Vairagya or detachment towards the impermanent. And attach more and more yourself to the permanent, is what actually the process of Vairagya is, not the process of spiritual life, so to say. Now, third thing, Shama Adi Shatka Sampatti. Shama Adi. Adi is what here? What are these etceteras here? First is Shama, we understood from the word itself. Second is Dhamma, then Uparama, then Titiksha, then Shraddha, then Samadhana. Now, Shama is control of the senses. Dhamma is control of the mind. Uparama is performing the duties, living a disciplined life, so to say. Fourth is Titiksha. Titiksha is, in English, can come as being tolerant. Then Shraddha is intellectual understanding, or in general, the term used is faith. And then last is Samadhana. Samadhana is single pointedness of the mind. So these 6 inner qualities would automatically start developing once people will have, or once the person will have more and more of Vairagya. And within that 6 also, once you grow more of Shama, you control more of your senses, you control more of your mind. When you control more of your mind, that means you're living a disciplined life. When you're living a disciplined life, then you're not tormented by the ups and downs of life. You become more and more tolerant. You don't get irritated easily. You don't get angry easily. Things are okay as they are. Then you, more and more this happens, you develop more and more faith towards the world, towards your own understanding, towards your own spiritual journey. Fifth one. And then obviously, once all of these are there, naturally you will have more focused mind. You will have single pointedness of the mind. So this is the third qualification, which has 6 inner wells or 6 inner qualities. Now, fourth is Mumukshutva, the last one. As I was saying, the burning desire for liberation. Again, all those things actually will not be there in a person who will not have the burning desire for liberation. What I'm trying to say, actually will not be there means the degree or the extent through which the person will have a depth in its vivek, the depth in its vairagya, the strength in its samadhi shatka sampatti will only be possible when the person will have in-depth desire for it, a burning desire, as they say. That is what mumukshutva means. This is what we have to understand by this fourfold qualification. Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhi, Shatka, Sampatti, Mumukshutva. All these 4 in this way. It's a simplified understanding that I've given you right now. We have to understand without these qualifications, the person can still can still study, but will not have a progression, will not see growth, will be the same person. There will be no change in the personality, as they say. There will be no transformation. There will be no evolution in the mind. The person will be thinking the same thoughts, the same kind of behavior the person will be conducting. These qualifications are intrinsic to the personality of the sadhaka. In this case, in particular here, Vedanta sadhaka. Again, to understand, now we are going back to the same question, the qualification, and I'm going back to the same word again. Why qualification? Because important. See, again, after this entire explanation, let's understand it in a very simple example. See, if somebody asks you who is qualified to see, what will be the answer? The answer will be a human being or any being with eyes, right? That person is qualified to see. Correct? Now, let's refine this question. Next question, who is qualified to see color orange? First qualification will still remain there. The person needs to have eyes. The being needs to have eyes. But what becomes the second qualification now? the person should not be colorblind. If the person is colorblind, the person might not be able to see orange. So this is how we have to understand qualification. See, who will know this is a cloth that I'm wearing? What is the qualification to know that this is a cloth? A person who has an understanding that the thread became the cloth. Somebody has worked upon it and made it into a cloth. Otherwise, it was a thread. The person understand, that is the person will be able to call it a cloth. Otherwise, the person will say it's something else. That is how we have to understand the word qualification. Nobody should think that qualification is only for Vedanta, or the rishis are only asking for qualification. No, everywhere the criteria is there. If you apply for a job, you need to have a certain criteria. When you go to LinkedIn right now, if somebody is watching, they can open LinkedIn right now, search for a job, open that job profile. First thing you will see about the company, second thing you will see job profile. What does that job profile tell you? That job profile is telling you the qualification that the applicant needs to possess. If you don't possess those qualifications, if you don't possess those skills, you can apply for that job because the button is there, the apply button is there, but the probability of you not getting that job is higher. This is what we have to simply understand as qualification.
Thank you very much, Adi, for shedding light on Vedanta topic. It was explained in such a clear and practical way. I hope this is helping also our audience to dig deeper into the topic. And I'm happy to have you here today. And I hope we can continue these talks to inspire even more people into the study of Vedanta. And for our audience, thank you very much for listening to us on the social media, and looking forward to our future talks. Namaste.
Sure, me too. Thank you all. Namaste.
To us on the social media, and